Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Crush Cash Games, episode number 35. As always, if y'all have not subscribed to my channel yet, just please take a second and click that button. And if you haven't checked out www.enhanceYourEdge.com, feel free to join my newsletter, get access to 20 extra videos and extra content via the newsletter. So, alright. Let's jump into this session right away. I don't think it was super action-packed. The bottom right table, we have 7-5 suited, gutter plus flush draw. The flop checked around, and the pre-flop raiser was the last to check, which doesn't really make his raise super credible, but it's also, with his sizing, it's also a weird spot for him to be bluffing. So it's one of those spots that are like, how can he have it, but how can he not have it? Generally when that's my thought, I opt to fold because I've called many times and somehow they just have it, whether he had like pocket fours or checked back a straight draw. Opening Jack 10 suited, blind versus blind. Gonna be an okay board for us to see bet if this villain opts to peel kind of light. Not exactly a board that I expect to get raised on. I think he's probably got a hand like, ace queen, ace jack, ace 8 potentially. With his sizing, potentially ace 8 and king 8. Maybe some flush draws in there as well, but because he's repping such a strong range and gave us a good price on the flop, we opted to peel with our gutter and backdoor flush draw. If we do turn the flush draw, then the turn is going to be a check call. Like I've mentioned in previous videos, at the top left table we're playing somewhat nitty. The guy that was on our right. Actually, let me go back. We were playing this session and we got disconnected and lost stats on everyone. So we've actually been at the top left table for longer than the Holdem indicator says. The player on our right is he's not very good. He's very aggressive and opens very often. And with us being on his left, that's gonna handcuff us. If we don't get playable cards, then all we can do is fold it and hope to get value hands that we can 3-bet him with and play a pot in position. And that's really basic winning poker. It's the easiest form of poker for sure. With the king queen, plan is to check call the turn and check call the river. There are plenty of turn draws that our villain could be betting. With the ace jack, we can bet. We can also opt to check. That's a board I would say villain can potentially stab at quite frequently with 0 equity hands, but may not opt to float in position. front door flush draw comes in, not really a concern that he's certainly going to be betting the front door flush draw, probably even the 7-8 gut shot. So just hoping to get paid by a potentially pot controlled ace or some kind of weak pocket pair that thinks we may have busted hearts. Three betting the 7-8 at the bottom left. Just felt right. I would say because the big blind is so nitty that this button, who seems to be pretty aggressive, is going to open very widely to attack the big blind. So I don't mind three betting light from the small blind versus that type of player. Three bet the king deuce off at the top right in blind versus blind. This is just one of those spots where I feel villains over raise, so we're kind of punishing him for his poor behavior and firing one bet. Unlikely that he's going to check call us without probably queen jack plus. No reason to continue firing with our zero equity hand. And his sizing to me indicates that he did have an ace. Also, potentially with his sizing, it could indicate that he's not a very he may not be the greatest player. With his sizing, it's so hard for him to get called by a queen, which is the hand that he really wants us to call with. If he has an ace, that's going to be the most common hand, like king queen, queen jack. So sizing up there makes it almost impossible for us to call with an ace, and just really hard for him to get action. Pocket fours on the button, that's just going to be a peel all day long. 10-5 suited, getting a bajillion D to 1. Easy peel multi-way. Opening the jack-10 off. This small blind does seem pretty tight. That is a pretty fantastic flop for us, though. And I don't know if you guys can see, but at the bottom of my screen, during this session, my Skype was lighting up, and that's because we have recently started a program called Think Tank on Enhance Your Edge. It's one group coaching with 3 members of Think Tank that lasts 90 minutes, and also a month worth of Skype discussions, hand histories. Basically, if you have any questions, you get to ask me and the other pros that are a part of our Skype group. It's $99 a month, and it's closed right now. The next session begins in December, the 17th, I believe. You can find more information again at enhanceYourEdge.com. feels so sad to me to have 15-9 stats after 54 hands. It feels I don't know what, shameful. No, I mean, that's just how poker is. You have to adapt to how the table, how your opponents are playing, and choose the best strategy that you feel is going to make the most money. And sometimes just not playing many hands, that's going to be the most profitable, best strategy. As a matter of fact, when a lot of the old school poker books were written, that was how the old men made their money. And that's still how the old men attempt to make their money. I'm not sure if that strategy of, you know, the watching grass grow type strategy is going to be profitable at like 2-5 live, but 1-2 it's still going to be profitable. It's probably profitable at 2-5. The right 5-10 games, it's going to be profitable there as well, but I would think that's about the cap. Once you hit the 10 1/4 range, playing very straightforward is going to be a losing strategy, because the competition has just evolved. They're not going to give you any action when you decide to enter the pot, and they're just going to attack you relentlessly. I've gotten many dirty looks in my day from just attack. So we 3-bet the jacks at the top left table. The 3-seat calls, and I'm going to pause this really quick. The 3-seat called us, and we flop middle set. I think we have a really good opportunity to under-rep our hand and check call. He's going to expect us to bet some percentage of the time with our sets and our ace-king type hands on this board. Probably a high percentage of the time. So I felt that check calling, we could under-rep our hand and hopefully cause him to be more aggressive with a hand that he may not play when faced with aggression, like a king-queen type hand. So anyway, after the check call on the turn, we opt to check on the flop, we opt to check call the turn to fall in line with our story of repping like kings or queens, and he bets half pot. Now that the board has a double flush draw, we basically have no choice but to get it in. And we run into a cooler type situation. No matter how we play that hand, we get the money from ace king. But the trick is to pretend that, you know, maybe he doesn't have ace king. How do we get money from the weaker hands as well as the strong hands? And I personally like our line. I think that's going to do the trick. And you really need to choose your opponents to take a more passive line pretty wisely. They need to be playing way too many hands. They need to be over defending, and they need to be somewhat aggressive. Those are the guys that, you know, you give them some rope and then they do the rest. And a good question too is, with our set of jacks, if we bet the flop with our stats, like how nitty we're playing, we're not just going to be randomly 3-betting middle position raiser from the big blind. At least we generally shouldn't be. So with our stats on like ace jack deuce, if we bet to get it in, how happy should ace king feel? Like, personally, I would feel not too thrilled with it, because you're kind of hoping at best a chop. Well, at best, if I have value in my range, a chop, and you're hoping that I have some random bluffs, and the only way that I could have random bluffs would be if I randomly 3-bet and then decided to just go bet on an ace high board, and that's quite a stretch, actually, because I would know that in my opponent's flatting 3-bet range, he's probably got jacks, he has ace jack, he has ace queen a lot as well, potentially ace king. So once I get called on the flop and the turn, I would know that my opponent has a pretty strong range, which isn't going to make me just feel lovely about stuffing the river as a bluff, because I know that bluff's very unlikely to succeed. And so when you're facing a guy who's shoving, and both of you know that a bluff is very unlikely to succeed, he just most of the time has a very, very strong range. And just so you guys know, there will not be a video next week. I'm going to be out of town for the Thanksgiving holidays. Maybe there might be a video. I might try to sneak one in before we leave it and upload it and post it next week. We'll see, but don't count on it. I assume everybody's going to be hungover from eating all their turkey and watching all the football games. Seven eight off wouldn't have been the worst 3-bet at the bottom left table. The 5 seat seems to be pretty aggressive. He's folded 100% 3-bets thus far. With the 10-5 off at the top left, as you all know, a lot of times I like 3-betting polarized, but against this particular villain, I'm just not going to mess with him. He's calling all 3-bets, he's raising weird amounts. I don't have much confidence that our 3-bet's going to work, and that our post-flop barreling is going to be hugely profitable, so still just sticking to my strategy of let's make a good hand and make him pay. I think I should have peeled with the ace-10 off when the 6 seat peels. Worked out okay because we got squeezed, but I think the ace-10 off is going to be a peel with 200 big blinds deep with position on our fish. So as I'm saying that, he's attempts a back raise. And loses his flip with the queens. Interesting to see when our opponents take kind of a strange line with their value. That's something that we can for sure put in our memory bank and hopefully use against the 6 seat later. Although the way he's going, who knows how long he'll last. And actually the play with the queens is not, it wasn't bad. I mean, it's a little unconventional, yeah, but it's not a super losing fishy type play. Or I should say ultra fishy type play. One thing that is pretty important in that hand, where the 6 seat back race with the queens, the speed with which he did it, as far as timing tells go, indicates a lot to me. He did it very, very quickly. There was no thinking about it. And when there's no thinking about it, oftentimes that's just going to mean a stronger hand. Whenever if you were thinking about, back raising a squeezer as a bluff, he's going to sit there and think for 3 to 4 seconds, process the situation, come to the conclusion, okay, I think this is a good play, and then pull the trigger. When he just instantly does it, that means that he basically has a no-brainer type decision. And you may think guys can fake that, or the counter of course is to, for all your no-brainer decisions, take 3 or 4 seconds. I would say that on Bovada, since it's anonymous, players are probably less inclined to be balanced, I guess, with their timing, because there's no historical information on the regulars. Once they leave the table, there's no way to put a note on them that follows them around. So it's very easy to get lazy. So even the regulars are going to be making that timing tell mistake. The fish for sure are going to make the timing tell mistake, and they would make it no matter what site they're playing on. These small little observances oftentimes are, they can really tip the scale between you beating a limit and you losing at a limit. If we want to 4-bet bluff, we need to pick the right times to pull the trigger. If we always pick the times where they snap 3-bet us, that's not going to work out too well. We could bet with the 8s at the top left, but against this particular villain, I think he's going to be checking a lot of his value as well, and check calling us on that flop. So we're going to have to invest multiple shells, and we don't know what. It's going to be hard for us to credibly rep 2-pair or set. He's going to think that we have some straight draws in our range as well, that if the turn and river brick off, it's just going to be can turn into a nasty situation for us. So I just want to check back the flop, accept the fact that we had a good opportunity to flop a set, we just didn't, and then move on with the hand, or move on with the table, move on from the hand. $7-10 off versus the 6 seat is going to be an easy peel. Probably going to be peeling very light, playing against that particular villain in position. Gonna raise the Queen Jack suited. It's probably doing very well versus the 3 seats limping range, plus we pick up initiative post flop, which is going to be pretty valuable. And also the big blind can call with pretty bad hands. Queen Jack suited is going to be a good multi-way hand. We could isolate the King Deuce suited. Folding is reasonable as well. Nothing really going. At the bottom left, I don't think I should peel with the 7-9 suited versus this villain who's raising 7% over his first 45 hands. Gonna be a tough spot for us post flop. Seven eight suited is very easy peel versus this villain that 3 bets very small. I always wonder to myself what type of hand is 3 betting that small for value. We get a pretty good answer. No reason to stab at this board. Deuce straight 10 with a backdoor flush draw. Just hope to check around, realize some equity. Turn king. Villain bets 20% pot. Five seats playing pretty snug. Would not expect him to raise here light. The 6 seat does have a lot of kings in his range. He's not going to try to make him fold the kings in his range, but he does have deuces, trays, and tens, the 5 seat. And once the 5 seat jams, I mean, he's all value all day long. And the answer to the question, what is villain 3 betting small with 4 ways? King 7 off. And just an atrocious stack off on the king turn. Very, 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 very not good. So even though it didn't happen to us, we do get justification for not really mixing it up with the 6 seat with marginal hands. Got about 3 minutes left in this video. As always, thank you very much for watching me go. The pocket 4s at the top right. We haven't really 3-bet. The 1 seat, it has been just raising up storm. They're going to be raising very light. The 2 seat, even though they've only played 8 hands, has already 3-bet once. feel like this is just a really good cold 4-betting opportunity. The fact that we have 4s is kind of irrelevant. I feel like we should be 4-betting in this spot very liberally. Aces at the bottom left. Always good news. Can go both ways with the ace-5. We can check it some, we can bet it some. Opted to bet this time. Jack pairing is not very good news for us. We really don't beat very much besides flush draws. So let's go back a sec. We get 3-bet at the bottom left with our aces. And villain does actually time down, so there could be many reasons for that, but he has not 3-bet yet over 45 hands, which is what caused me to go ahead and 4-bet him. We seem to be fairly aggressive. It being 3-handed, I think he's going to be willing to get it in a little lighter than normal. He's doing a very... I know what he has because I've already played the hand, but he's doing a pretty good job with his timing. I think it's very clever with the hand that he has. It's just, you know, your standard run-of-the-mill cold deck, but his delay could cause us to stack off with a hand like 10s. Pretty good turn card at the top left. Alas, no action. Villain probably peeled with, you know, some pocket pair below 9s. And it looks like we are out of time. Let's see how this pocket 5s hand plays out. King 9-9 against this villain. I do think we should fire one somewhat small bet, $16, and give up if we get called. But thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to do so. And check out enhanceyouredge.com. And y'all have a very happy Thanksgiving if I don't make a video. Be safe, happy travels, and I'll see you guys soon.